It's very good to see more nuanced views coming up, particularly on YouTube at the moment. And uh, the conversation on The Rest is Politics with Yuval Noah Harari is probably one of the most important conversations to look at the moment. Uh, he suggests that Hamas doesn't want peace. He suggests that Hamas has laid a trap which the current Israeli government has fallen beautifully into. And Rory Stewart quotes Carlos Mariella, a Brazilian theorist, a Brazilian terrorist, I think, who says that there's a route whereby terrorism goads the government into a military response, which will then be resented and will then be blamed for all the problems. And that is, of course, exactly what Hamas is doing at the moment, with knowing that Benjamin Netanyahu will overreact, which is exactly what he's doing. Yuval Noah Harari has said that Hamas is locked into a competition of suffering and with the Israeli population, this immense pain and suffering. There's no winner in this. And Hamas has gone out of its way to be as demonstrably evil as possible, and to confront fanaticism with fanaticism. And the level of religious fanaticism that is present in Israel and has always been present in Israel is incomprehensible to people in the West who are perhaps divorced from religious thought. I mean, it's it's a great shock, I think, for people watching YouTube videos, even to come across someone like Rabbi Dovid Weiss, who's part of the Neturei Carter group. This is the group of from ultra orthodox Haredi religious people who do not believe in the state of Israel. They believe that the state of Israel is an insult to the writings of the Torah and the Talmud. That Jews should always be a wandering people until the time of the Messiah, Moshiach, um, and and that it is the Jewish fate to be in pain and suffering. Well, this feeds again into the Hamas objective, this level of fanaticism, and uh, is also linked with a level of hopelessness in the face of a steamrollering extreme right-wing government, which we see. Of course, we have elements of that in the British government with Suella Braverman, with the British government that doesn't listen to people, the ministers that don't engage with the public, that simply repeat slogans. Well, it's so much worse in Israel under the Netanyahu government. But the Netanyahu government, this has been going on since Ariel Sharon. Ariel Sharon is the turning point, really, in the Israeli governments since the inception of the State of Israel. And you've got two inflexible positions locked in a struggle against each other. Well, that wouldn't really be true, because it's simply in a defiance of each other, in ignorance of each other. And Hamas has undermined the peace process. Hamas If Hamas were a democratic organization, it would have had elections. It hasn't had elections since it came to power in the Gaza Strip. No elections. This is a dictatorship, a theocracy, and it's done nothing for the local people except to gear them up to prepare them for death. And ironically, this has been a time when there has been some progress. Israel was on the cusp of an agreement with Saudi Arabia, which would have led the Arab world into a much greater formal peace with Israel. That's the opinion of Yuval Noah Harari. And the Hamas attack bulldozed that effort. It was, he believed, intentional, an intentional effort to thwart any form of peace with intentional brutality, to incite fear and hatred, to destroy trust, to goad the state into a level of humanity that Hamas has already displayed itself, to outrage each other with this level of inhumanity, in the same way as there's a challenge between Hamas and Israel to compete in terms of suffering. Yuval says it's a war on our souls, and that the Hamas scenario ruins any chance of peace in Israel for generations. I think it cements the war that is taking place, this global war that is taking place at the moment in various parts of the world. This, I think it's wrong to see it all in terms of one individual. It's wrong to see it as Putin's proxy war. It's wrong to see it as some sort of global jihad. People have on YouTube, you will see both of these explanations. I think instead it's about a hardening of positions, and I think it's helped or hindered indeed by a social media obsession with answers. I don't think the answers are something that we can provide. I think what we can provide are questions, and I think it's questions and the gradual discussion which social media is so good at doing, which is the key to getting out of this problem. Instead, there's a growing mass in social media that is trying to produce pat answers. Pat answers don't exist, and if we can get that idea across, then we're starting to thrash through the Zelensky Putin problem. We're starting to thrash through Syria, Yemen, and the Hamas Israel problem. We might even start to get some sort of understanding of what's going on in Africa. But if we are looking for pat answers, we won't find them. Well, we will find them. That's the problem. We'll find plenty of them, but they're wrong. And there isn't a global conspiracy. There isn't a single answer to any of this. There are simply nuances of interpretation. And at the same time, because of the speed of the news, the players involved in all of these battlefields are using that conspiracy, are using that competition of suffering, are using that international brutality and that rise in fanaticism to their own ends. So the only way to compete with that is to work through slowly each individual situation and to try and find some sort of positivity and not to be brought down to this level of evil. And I feel it's something. Do you remember the film Seven? To be goaded into doing something evil at the end of the film, to be goaded into doing evil. And that is what Hamas is doing. Hamas is goading Netanyahu into evil because they understand the way Netanyahu thinks. The way Netanyahu thinks that fanaticism, it may not be religious fanaticism, but it is political fanaticism, and there is a resonance between Hamas and Netanyahu. They understand him, and that is the biggest problem.